Complaining. We all do it at some point. In fact, even during the best of times, people can find something to complain about, right? But it's okay, and here's why. Complaining is a totally natural human response to discomfort, something we all feel in a variety of different contexts for a variety of different reasons. My reasons for discomfort will probably be very different from your reasons for discomfort. However, we all have commonalities and similar needs, like basic human needs and desires, that are likely to cause all of us discomfort. We're all probably discomforted by something that's itchy, for example, or extreme cold or extreme heat or hunger. These are all commonly shared experiences. It's okay to express and have negative emotions. They are totally valid and just as valid as positive emotions. And when we need to talk about them, it can be labeled negatively as complaint or whining or kvetching or being a negative Nancy. And I think that's a way to accidentally censor other people's emotional expression. And sometimes we do this because we're uncomfortable with someone else's discomfort, which is crazy when you think about it, but kind of makes sense. Like, if somebody is complaining, they're bringing their discomfort out into the air, into the open, and I'm receiving it by hearing them. And sometimes I'm not ready or prepared to receive that kind of energy or information or that shift in mood, because I'm an empathetic person and I'm easily affected by the moods and feelings of other people around me. And I can imagine you might be too. It's nearly impossible to be perfectly robotic and completely detached and unaffected by anybody's emotions around us. And therefore, when someone else is complaining, it's understandable to feel some discomfort about their discomfort. However, we need to be careful not to promote toxic positivity, which is kind of common, especially in the New Age and the self-help and the alternative communities that I'm deeply a part of, because by claiming good vibes only, or you should only express positive things because that's how you bring positive things into your life, and don't focus on the negative and things like that. And while those have their merits, those aren't just empty platitudes. There is scientific information and studies that back up that positive thinking can be very helpful and effective towards causing positive change in your life. So it's not a reason not to do it, but I think it's a reason to leave space for also experiencing and acknowledging negative emotions. Because if we're not acknowledging them or processing them, working through them, we're going to bottle them up inside, and it's going to become very tense, and you're going to raise your cortisol levels, and that will decrease your immune system and your ability to connect and relate with other people. So yeah, expressing negative emotions is normal and okay and actually healthy if done properly. Venting can be a way to stoke the fire, to just sort of make the pain all bubble up to the surface again and be felt over and over. And it's like re-exposing yourself to something traumatic or negative doesn't make it go away. But bringing these things up is a part of what will make them go away. So when people talk about, oh, that's just a first world problem, right? It's almost like there's some kind of pain Olympics that they put you in without your consent. If I am experiencing the pain of a twisted ankle and somebody tells me like, well, I broke my leg last year, so your pain is minuscule in comparison to what pain I experienced, it's not a competition. In fact, my knowledge of worse pain out there does not diminish my experience of my pain that I'm feeling right now in my twisted ankle. That knowledge doesn't just poof by comparison make it go away. If it did, that'd be incredible, and we could be using these strategies in hospitals and to replace medicinal pain relief. So if only that worked, that'd be great. However, it doesn't, and if anything, it's just going to make the person experiencing pain, my twisted ankle, to feel unheard or unseen or invalidated. Like, it's basically their way of saying your pain isn't real, or it isn't big enough to be valid in my book. I don't even want to hear about it. It's not even worth speaking about. But little things are experienced on their own. It's not like we sit there in our brains and our memory of all the pain we've ever experienced and we chart a graph and we say, okay, this pain was smaller than this, so I actually don't feel it as much. I mean, if that works for you, that's great. But anytime that someone has minimized my pain, it's actually made it worse in some ways, because psychologically, I've just been shut down. and nobody wants that. So little things, even if, right now due to the pandemic, your favorite cafe is closed and you really loved going there every week to get like the amazing scones they had, and it was part of your ritual and it made you feel a part of your local community. Those are all valid things. And the fact that the cafe is closed right now causes you to grieve its temporary loss in your life, and you are lacking the benefits that it brought into your life, and therefore causes you a little bit of sadness, mental pain. And so when somebody says, oh, that's a first world problem, as if I shouldn't be feeling that loss, right? And yes, it is something that is experienced in comparison to worse pain felt by other people in other parts of the world for other reasons. Sure, it's smaller by comparison, but that doesn't mean I don't kind of miss it, So I think it's important to be aware of the ways that we contextualize our own pain, if we're judging our own pain, first of all, and the ways that we contextualize other people's pain and judge or compare their pain. In fact, it's best not to just comment on the magnitude of their pain in any way or the context of their pain unless you're validating it, unless you're asking more questions and getting curious and letting them speak about why their pain exists for them. Because wouldn't you want to be treated in the same way? I certainly would. This is also a form of spiritual bypassing, and I'll get into that in another video, but I want to plant the seed and give this as an example for now because it's totally relevant. It's a form of bonding. When you need to complain to a friend or someone close to you, it's a way of saying, here's my experience. And if they can mirror back like, oh, I've had a similar experience, or, oh, wow, that must have really been terrible for you. I can totally see why you'd feel that way. You've now shared the meta experience. You haven't both twisted your ankle, but you've shared in the experience of acknowledging and understanding the gravity and realness of that pain. It is also a way to gain empathy, which is something we all need. It's a natural human need. It's a way to relate with people. We all want to be more relatable to others, and we want others to relate to us. That's part of what creates the bonds in our social circles. So when people are venting or complaining, they're actually reaching out for connection. And it's important to see it as that rather than to shut it down as like an isolated experience. Like, oh, you're experiencing that, but I'm not a part of it, and there's no value in me hearing it, for example. People want to be seen and related to. They want their feelings and their physical pain, whether it's, some mental and physical pain, to be validated. And that is crucial to our experience. If no one validates our experience or pain, it's like we're living in a vacuum and everything is totally unverifiable. Like, did that ever happen? Is it normal that I'm feeling this way? And we start to second guess ourselves and feel very isolated and very alone, which compounds our pain, gives us more to complain about. So I think it's important to recognize that venting and complaining is cathartic. There's a lot of scientific evidence that shows that expressing your pain actually alleviates your pain to a degree. And when we talk about our pain or our complaints, we're complaining, it's an energetic release. We may have been holding this stuff in, waiting for the right time or the right person or the right context to speak to about it. And then when we finally do, there's something intangible about letting that go. Even if we get all worked up and upset as we're talking about the thing we're complaining about, once it's out there, we're a little bit lighter. And I think we need to acknowledge the experience of the person receiving our complaint, because they're not just like this flat board at which we can throw everything and none of it sticks. They're empathetic beings too. So they're going to absorb and feel some of your feelings. And that's why I think it's important to channel the feelings that you're having, the complaint, towards an actionable end, towards some kind of outcome. So behind every complaint, behind every venting session is a need or desire at the root of it. So if I complain about, oh, I'm so hungry, it's really obvious that the need is that I should eat food for my body. But when we talk about more abstract things like emotional experiences or discomfort, especially if there's an abstract nature to it, it's a little ambiguous, it's very ethereal in a sense, it's harder to see what exactly the need or desire is at the base of it. If I go to my friend and say, oh, I was talking to this relative of mine, let's say an aunt, I'm just making this up, and I was telling her about this thing I'm really passionate about and I've been working really hard, and my aunt just kind of ignored me or brought up all the negative aspects of my project and said I shouldn't pursue it, and I feel really bad and really negative about it, but I don't know why. And so complaining to a friend in that way is expressing sort of this deep down need for validation from my aunt, or acknowledgement or appreciation, acceptance for who I am, or at least accepting my passions as totally valid things to pursue. And so if you can get in touch with your own needs and desires as they're coming through your complaints, if you can read between those lines, you will be better able to express what's really going on deep down while you're complaining. So it's another layer of a mental exercise, and it's tough to think in a meta sense as you're complaining. So that's why journaling is really helpful, because you can go back over the things that you wrote and say what is the need there? What is the thing I was expressing that actually says something more about my internal experience and my needs? And if you get really good at picking out the needs and desires in somebody else's complaining, then when they're coming to you and talking about their struggles, you can pick out it sounds like maybe you need a little bit of this, or it sounds like you were lacking that, or it's just a way to help them really see their own feelings, and then they'll feel even more validated. They'll be yeah, I totally was needing that in that moment. So it's a really powerful tool to be able to hone and use in conversation, especially when someone's expressing their pain, aka complaining or venting. So a way to constructively complain, there's a process to this. First, ask for consent. If I'm going through something that's really painful and difficult and has a long, elaborate story attached to it, I would be better served by my friend if I came to my friend and said to him, hey, I've just gone through something really difficult and I have a lot of feelings about it and I have a lot to say and it might take a while to express and I'm going to get kind of worked up. So take some self-awareness, first of all. Second of all, letting them know where you're at and what they might expect out of the conversation. And then say, are you in the space to hear this right now? Are you energetically able to receive what I'm going to talk about? And then they can say yeah, tell me what's going on. I'm here for you. Or I've got some time this afternoon. Let's chat. Or not now, but later, and reschedule a time. Tomorrow, I'd love to hear about what you're going through. No worries. Then try to channel your emotions into something that is solution oriented. What actions can you take? So after you've expressed the emotions, then what? There's sort of this now what that needs to happen after that, because it doesn't just stop there. There's a staleness or a stagnation in the energy if it's purely expressing the discomfort. So what comes after the discomfort? If you can't think of your own actions and how this problem needs to be solved in your life, recruit the help of your friend. Do you have any advice for me? Do you have any suggestions? What would you do if you were in my shoes? That's really helpful to get clarity from an outside perspective, because we often can't see the forest for the trees. We can't see the reality of our own lives and the experiences we're going through in the moment while we're feeling the feelings. Feelings can be very clouding at the time. They kind of create some mist in our brains. Next, look for the meaning. Talk about the feelings that you're feeling, why the thing that happened impacted you, why you're feeling those feelings, in what ways does it affect your life. Look for the action, and then look for meaning as well. So what does this mean to me? Does it affect how I see myself, or how I see someone else, or the world at large? Or will it affect the way I behave, the actions that I can take? Does it limit me in any way? Does it expand me in other ways? And finally, a little bit of humor will help you deal with it. I love to complain in hyperbole. I think it's a trademark feature of my sense of humor personally. And it really helps to put your pain into perspective and make a little bit light of the situation, especially to the person receiving all this really intense energy from you in that time. So for example, I woke up in a very hot tent at a festival a couple years ago with my partner, who I had just started dating, and he wasn't really used to me complaining. And I woke up so cranky because I was in so much pain. I was so uncomfortable. I hadn't slept enough. Everything was loud and it was hot as balls. And I just woke up and had the sudden urge to curse the god of the sun. I started speaking to the sun as if it was this callous god who was cursing us with its presence and excessive heat, and it just became this whole thing. And we were cracking up within a few minutes as I like grumbled and rummaged around the tent for the mylar blanket to put over the tent to reflect some of the light, and it was hilarious. So I recommend kind of talking about the woe is me. Like, let yourself take your emotion that you're experiencing, turn that dial all the way up to 11, and just feel the fuck out of it, because that's sort of a way to let yourself feel all the frustration and anger, even if you know it's kind of petty, even if you know you're sort of a toddler throwing a tantrum in that moment. So at least you can make yourself and other people laugh. And laughter is the best medicine, right? So it'll kind of decrease the discomfort you're feeling, hopefully. So I hope you all feel permission to complain. That is what I'm trying to give you right now. And also, I hope I give you permission to allow others to complain, because we're all experiencing something negative at some point, and all of our human experiences are totally subjective and all valid. So I hope you find something to be grateful for in addition to your complaints, but complain away. It's okay by me.